When actress Olivia Munn was diagnosed with breast cancer and had a double mastectomy, she said she was lucky. Cancer doctors hope other women do what Munn did. She got a breast cancer risk assessment. Matilda Francois is a surgeon at the High Risk Breast Clinic at Carle Cancer Institute in Normal. In this edition of WGLT's Sound Health, Francois tells student reporter Megan Spurline Olivia Munn's risk assessment showed something that normal mammograms and even genetic testing did not.
We have basically tools on the internet that you plug in information and it spits out a calculation of your potential risk of developing breast cancer in your lifetime. And based off of those results, we are able to give recommendations to patients about how we might monitor or image them differently than we would the general population with only the average amount of risk. So what happens is that she undergoes this risk stratification and it comes out that she is considered high risk despite having had normal mammograms in the past and normal genetics. And so her gynecologist recommends that she undergo an MRI, a breast MRI, as part of her surveillance that's recommended because of her high risk. So she undergoes this MRI and it notes an abnormal finding. Had she never known that she was at an increased risk, she would have been continuously undergoing mammograms and would have likely advanced her disease prior to the mammogram finding it. And so that's why she has advocated for people to talk to their care doctors about getting their risk stratifications completed.
Where you work, how exactly do you go through that process, and what different tests and tools do you have available?
So there are actually quite a few different risk models that are utilized in the medical community. A few are more commonly used than others. We have one that's known as the Tyrer-Cuzick model, or also known as the IBIS risk tool. Probably the one that Olivia Munn used because it's the one that's more commonly utilized. It also takes into account and consideration family history a little bit more than some of the others. And what happens is that it's basically like an online questionnaire. And it asks you things like your age, your menstrual history, your birth history if you've ever had children, your density on your mammograms, your family history. Have you ever had any previous abnormal mammograms and biopsies associated? So it puts a lot of this pieces of information, and then it spits out at the end a calculation of your risk in the next 10 years and your risk in your lifetime. So by the time that you're age 85 years old. And based off of the risk that is calculated is how we do recommendations. None of these tests are able to tell us 100% if you will get cancer, but they tell us who to monitor more aggressively.
Are these risk calculators, is this something someone could access at home because it's online, or would you have to go into a doctor or gynecologist to do that with your doctor?
They are actually all readily available online for patients to risk stratify themselves. The problem is that the way that they're set up is that sometimes it can be difficult for patients to know all of the answers to the questions without the help of their doctor. I wish that they were a little easier to fill out, but just the lay person may not understand what the question is asking, if that makes sense. So some people don't know what their breast density is. It's reported on their mammogram, but the report that they receive may not list it to them what their breast density is. But their doctor would know that easily by looking at the results of their last mammogram. They may know that they have had a biopsy of their breast before, but they may not necessarily know what the diagnosis of that biopsy was. They may just know, well, it was benign. But some benign things still increase your risk of breast cancer. And if you don't know specifically the diagnosis, then you may under-risk stratify yourself at home.
The American College of Radiology now recommends getting a breast cancer risk assessment by age 25. Francois says women should get their first mammogram by age 40, but sooner if they have a relative who was diagnosed with breast cancer at a young age. Francois spoke with WGLT student reporter Megan Spurline.
Support for WGLT health coverage comes from Carle Health. You can count on Carle as your partner in healthcare. Information at carle.org.